Hello, this is TheAshleyCorinne, and this is part two of the Real Matrix redo, and then in parentheses redeaux. Um, I needed to make I needed to make part two because I've rambled so much, but I'm only gonna make two parts. You should have seen me last night. I made five fucking videos, five at 10 minutes each. That's almost an hour of my stupid ass rambling about stupid shit. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm not stupid. And I'm talking shit on myself, which I shouldn't do. That's my fucking main problem. And here we go, rambling again. But I don't care because I'm making a point. Don't talk shit on yourself. Don't call yourself stupid. Um, so, see, here's my little lollipop microphone. Um, uh, but more about I want to talk about the relationship between the ether, between the fifth element, and there's really two ways you can think about it. You can think of, and this the way I like to think about it is that the ether or space is the zero element, zero being the cosmic egg of potentiality or what might be. And then the other four elements are the one, two, three, four. And in Vedism or Hinduism, they talk about how the first element was space, or the zero element, and then the number one element after that was air, and then the number two element was fire. Number three element was um, water, and then the number four element was earth. See, this is how I interpret that in talking about M theory. And there's something, and I always bring up M theory, M theory, M theory, because it's really important because these scientists are figuring out what the fuck these mystics were talking about all this time, except they're figuring it out scientifically, um, which of course gives it more credibility. Um, but they talk about how at one point the electromagnetic force and the weak force, the weak nuclear force, which I associate with air, the weak force, and then electromagnetism I associate with fire. At one point, these forces were one force, which they called the electro-weak force. And so, the in Vedism, they talk about how there was space to begin with, which was nothing. Like in the Bible, it says, "In the beginning, the earth was void and without form." And what is a void? What is something that has no form? Space, right? And then in the Vedic cosmology, there was space, and then air filled the space, and fire ignited the air, and then water the cooled down the fire, and then the product of all this was earth. It condensed in this. But it's funny to think that in the beginning the two forces were fire and air, the electromagnetic force and the weak force. Um, at one point were the same. They were called the electro weak, which I already said. And so, but that's, that's fucking Genesis and all that shit. The genesis of the universe and all this, or the multiverse, I guess. But um, you know, the whole point of the point I've been trying to make for the last 5 minutes is that the ether is every element, and what we think of as the four elements, which I personally consider to be the four fundamental forces of nature described by M theory, are just divisions of the same force. They're just different vibrations, different expressions of the same force. But that's what I consider to be, the fall of Adam and Eve. And of course, and you have to understand that the story of Adam and Eve isn't about male and female. The story of Adam and Eve is about body and mind. Because there was another, I fucking can't remember it, but it was like a Greek myth of Psyche. If anyone could fucking comment on there was Psyche and some other motherfucker. Okay, just think of the Adam and Eve myth, right? And think of it in purely symbolic terms, not literal at all. Okay, there was Adam, and in the beginning, Adam and Eve were one, if you think about it, because Eve was taken out of Adam. But the name Adam means like earth, or like an atom, physical expression. So Adam is representative of the body, the physical body, this shit that I'm slapping right now, the physical body. And Eve, also known as Psyche in the Greek myth, is mind. So it's the division of body and mind. And that at one time they were one substance, but then in order to experience things subjectively, we had to separate the body and mind so that the mind can view the body. But the story of Adam and Eve and eating from the tree of knowledge and shit like that, it's crazy, dude. It's crazy once you think of it, because the way I see it is, God in the myth are the forces of nature, the harsh, cold forces of nature. And they said, don't eat of the knowledge. Of course, Adam and Eve were separated, and then they were told not to eat from the fruit of knowledge. And so, what the fuck did they do? What does any child do when you tell them not to do something? They'll go right ahead and do it, and that's human nature. But it's like, I think the whole thing about, and people talk about, eating from the fruit of knowledge, how it's a metaphor for sex. That's kind of like the most common theme, and I can agree with that, because what happens after that? Adam and Eve get their fuck on and they have children. But it's like, I think the deeper spiritual meaning for that is that Adam and Eve having sex, quote unquote, is representative of the recombination of body and mind, because they were separated from each other. And when the body and mind come together again, that's the reunion. That's the knowledge, the gnosis. And you should look up Gnosticism. That's Gnosticism. Gnosticism. And it's anything that you read that was written by the Gnostics is purely symbolic. It's a metaphor. Don't take it literally, or else you'll end up like a fucking Christian all fucked up on this shit. You hear me?